Good day. I'm Dwayne Innatown, but feel free to call me Dwayne, D-Man, D-Wizzle, Biggie D, or any other sort of nickname you can think of. People also tell me that I bear a striking resemblance to some guy who makes a lot of nature documentaries. I'm not a big fan of those things. I'm usually more interested in movies with fast cars and lots of explosions. However, when I'm not watching the latest Hollywood blockbuster, I like to take the time to visit some of my favorite national parks, namely Banff National Park. And whenever I'm in Banff, two places I always try to see are Lake Louise and Lake Moraine. I still remember the days when I could drive to either lake, park my car, and spend the whole day exploring the trails, gazing up at the snow-capped mountains, enjoying a cup of coffee by the lakeshore, and sharing the experience with my friends and family. Back then, all I needed was my National Parks pass and a full tank of gas in my 1974 Ford half-ton. Unfortunately, those days are long gone now. The lakes have become too popular, and every passing year sees more and more people traveling from every corner of the world to see them. Back in the 2000s, I could drive up to Moraine Lake whenever I wanted and have no problem finding parking. A few years later, I had to arrive before 9 in the morning, then 7, then 5. And not long after, I had to arrive at 11 p.m. the night before to see the sunrise. Cars started parking in the RV spots. RVs would park in the bus lanes. People tried to sell parking stalls online. The whole situation was pretty bad and was only getting worse. Something had to be done. Parks Canada, after years of trial and error, eventually came up with a solution. It may not be the best solution, you may not like it, I certainly don't, but it seems to be working for now. I am, of course, talking about the Parks Canada Shuttle system and the parking lot fees. A good number of people seem to be having trouble wrapping their heads around how these things work, so I'm going to try and help sort this stuff out. Keep in mind that Parks Canada has a habit of changing how their shuttle system works every so often, so don't be surprised if what I explain here changes as time passes. Now let's start by talking about parking lots. Starting with the village of Lake Louise, you have two major parking lots. The large lot at Sampson Mall and the lot that's across Village Road behind a gas station. During the summer, both of these lots have time restrictions on them. Depending on where you park, you may only have 2 hours to stay in that lot, which is just enough time for a person to go gift shopping, grab a bite to eat, use the bathroom, and figure out where they're going next. It's definitely not enough time if you were planning on hiking from the parking lot up to Lake Louise. The reason why these parking lots have time restrictions on them is that the village of Lake Louise is very busy, and Sampson Mall is not meant to be a place where people spend their whole day. Unless you're staying in one of the hotels or the hostel, the village is supposed to be a stop you can make for a quick break before moving on to a different location. Next is the parking lot that is actually at Lake Louise. This lot does not have time restrictions, but it does have something else that's just as annoying. Fees. In order to park your car at Lake Louise, you have to pay a parking fee. You pay for your parking fee at an electronic kiosk, and you can only use a credit card. These fees are paid in addition to your National Parks pass, so be aware of that when making plans. As for when you're required to pay for a parking spot, generally, if the shuttle buses are operating, you should be paying to park your car at Lake Louise. So even if you arrive before the sun is up, if the shuttles are operating, you may be expected to pay to park. Now for the most elusive parking lot of them all, Moraine Lake. Moraine Lake used to be one of the worst parking lots in all of Banff. It's much smaller than the lot at Lake Louise, but would experience just as much traffic. Back in 2018, a person would drive 15 minutes to Moraine Lake only to find dozens of cars parked on the side of the already very narrow road and a lineup of people constantly circling around the lot, waiting for a spot to open up. It got so bad that Parks had to place a 24-hour guard and a gate at the base of the road to prevent overcrowding. Today, however, the road is now closed to almost all public traffic. Yet there are still two ways to park your car at Moraine Lake. The first is if you are a guest of the Moraine Lake Lodge. The lodge has their own parking lot for guests, but staying there isn't exactly cheap. The second is if you have a handicap tag for your vehicle. Remember, the parking is very limited, so even if you have a tag, you may not be allowed in. You can still take a bicycle up the Moraine Lake Road, but be aware that the road is more than 12 kilometers long, almost entirely uphill, quite narrow, and you will be sharing it with numerous buses, which is not exactly a fun combination. So if you don't want to hike or ride a bicycle for hours on end, pay for a parking spot, worry about time limits, and still have the chance to see both Lake Louise and Lake Moraine in the same day, what are you supposed to do? The answer is simply to take the bus. For a number of years now, Parks Canada has been operating a shuttle system that transports people to both Lake Louise and Moraine Lake. The buses are frequent, the rides are fairly quick, and while you do have to pay for a reservation, the price is reasonable. At least it's more reasonable than the parking fee at Lake Louise. Now, as I've said, to use this bus, you have to make a reservation. You cannot simply show up at any time of day and expect to find an empty seat. Reservations are made through the Parks Canada Reservation service, and oh look, turns out there's a video that explains how the reservation service works and how to make an account with it. But because I'm such a nice guy, I'm going to take the time to show you how to make a reservation on the website. So if you're planning on using the website to make a reservation, please be aware that the website isn't exactly easy to use on a phone, so try to do this on a computer. Once you've made an account and have logged in, you need to first click on the Day Used tab. Then select Shuttle to Lake Louise and Moraine Lake. There's only one option under Park, so choose that one. Select a date. And finally, the number of people in your group. Keep in mind that while young people aged 17 and younger do not have to pay for a seat, they still need a reservation to ride the bus. This also means that you can't just hold someone on your lap to avoid reserving for 2 seats. Once you've input all of your trip information, click on Search. This should bring up a map where you can click on the shuttle option to see what is available. Personally, I prefer going to the top left corner of the map and clicking on List. It makes the information a little easier to read. You can see that I can choose to take a bus to either Lake Louise or Moraine Lake. I'll talk more about this later. There are quite a few available options, but not all is as it seems. And now we see that things are a little more complicated. To help you understand what's going on here, I'll walk you through this little chart. Under Activity are a series of departure times that are broken up into 1-hour blocks. Because the shuttles leave every 15 to 20 minutes, I would be able to catch any of the buses that leave in the hour that I have booked for. For example, if I made a booking for the 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. shuttle, I would be able to take any bus that leaves between those times, so long as there is an available seat. The top of the chart lists a series of dates along with the next and previous buttons for scrolling around. Below the dates, at each listed hour, will be a symbol which indicates the bus availability. The green check mark means that I should be able to make a reservation at that date and time. The red X means that the buses are full and I will be unable to reserve for that time. The orange exclamation point means that there is availability, but I am unable to book for that time. This usually means that while there may be available seats, there probably isn't enough for me to book my whole group. All I have to do now is look for one of the days that I'll be visiting the park and find if there's a time that is good for visiting the lakes. With all that out of the way, I will say that there are 2 different kinds of reservations for shuttle buses. We'll call these regular and last minute. A regular reservation is any reservation made more than 2 days in advance. This is the kind of reservation that most people will try to make if they are planning their trip weeks or months prior to visiting. These are usually the first type of reservation to fill up. A last-minute reservation is one that is made within 2 days of the trip to Lake Louise or Moraine Lake. In order to prevent people from booking all of the shuttle seats the moment that reservations open up, Parks Canada holds on to about half of the seats on each shuttle. Then, 2 days before, at 8 in the morning, Mountain Time, Parks Canada releases those seats and makes them available for reservation. So if I wanted to go to Moraine Lake on July 3rd, I could make a last-minute reservation as early as July 1st at 8 in the morning. These seats tend to fill quickly, so you better be ready to book. Now, many people who want to see Lake Moraine may find that there are no seats available at the time they want. That doesn't mean that you can't get to the lake. All you have to do is make a reservation for Lake Louise. This is because your shuttle reservation actually allows you to visit both lakes in one day. The lake that you make your reservation for simply determines which lake your shuttle will be stopping at first. So if you are unable to make a reservation to see Moraine Lake, simply make a reservation to visit Lake Louise instead, then catch the transfer shuttle from Lake Louise to Lake Moraine. Once you've made a reservation, you're ready to go. But there's still some important things to keep in mind. Number 1, do not show up too early for your shuttle. There is limited parking at the shuttle station, and there is definitely not enough room for people to show up just to wait around. The suggested time for arrival before your shuttle's departure is 15 to 20 minutes, and no earlier than that. You can still show up closer to your departure time, but keep in mind that you'll still have to find a parking spot, get all of your gear and bags sorted out, sign in for your reservation, find the correct bus, and possibly wait for a bus with available seats. So don't try showing up at the last minute. Number 2, pets are restricted on the buses. Because we are living in a world full of people with allergies, travel with animals tends to be complicated. If you are traveling with a pet and you wish to take the shuttle, you must be able to store your animal in a carrier, and both must be small enough for you to hold them on your lap while you are seated. This means that if you are planning to travel with 3 golden retrievers and your emotional support chicken, you're probably not going to be able to catch the bus. Service animals do not need to be kept in carriers and can ride at no extra charge, but owners need to be prepared to show their service animals verification. Number 3. If you are going to be carrying bear spray, you must have it securely stowed inside your bag before getting on the bus. You cannot carry it. You can't have it hooked to your belt. You can't have it strapped to the outside of your backpack. It must be inside your bag. There have been instances in the past where bear spray canisters have gone off in transit, exposing everyone in the bus to the most eye-watering ride of their lives. Nobody wants to ride a bus to a lake only to arrive and find that they are unable to see anything because they can't open their eyes. Number 4, the Parks Canada Shuttle is not the only way of going to see the lakes. There are several other privately operated bus services in Lake Louise Village and the town of Banff that will happily take you to see either lake. However, they don't travel as often as the Parks Canada Shuttle. They're far more expensive, and they may not run every day. Number 5. While you may hear about a Parks Canada early bird shuttle for Lake Moraine, make sure you do your research before trying to book it. There have been sunrise shuttles in the past, but some have been cancelled for various reasons, and the times and rules surrounding the sunrise shuttles also seems to change from year to year. So, if you are dead set on seeing the sunrise at Moraine Lake, make sure you do your research beforehand, know exactly where you need to be and at what time. Number 6. If you are planning to catch the shuttle to Lake Louise or Lake Moraine, you must start from the main station. If you've made a reservation to see Lake Moraine, you cannot just drive your car up to Louise, park it there, then expect to catch the transfer bus. All trips on the Parks Canada shuttles must start at the main station. Number 7. To catch the bus, you still need to have a National Parks Pass. Your bus reservation does not include a Parks Pass, so make sure you stop at a gate or visitor centre to grab one. I do believe that covers most of what you need to know about the shuttle buses. I hope that this video helps you to see Lake Louise and Lake Moraine. Maybe one day we'll be able to drive our cars and find parking like in the old days. But until that day comes, I guess we're going to be stuck with the buses. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to make a reservation for a sunrise shuttle so I can once again shove my nephew into a lake. Have a good one.